If it's raining at midnight, can you expect that in 72 hours it'll be sunny? Nope, in 72 hours, it's going to be night again. In the room, there are two people, both of them sitting. But if one of them stands up, they won't be able to take the other one's place whatever they do. How is that possible? The second person is sitting on the first one's lap. A father tells his teenage daughter, "You arrived very late at 3 a.m. and made us all worry a lot. I don't want this situation to repeat." His daughter, though, replies that it will never happen again. How can she be so sure? The father was talking about the birth of his daughter. An art expert paid big money at an auction for a painting that he knew didn't cost anything. He was an honest man and didn't have any criminal intentions. Why did he buy this picture? Although the painting cost nothing, its frame was a beautiful and expensive piece of art. A street food vendor has a sign on his stall saying, "1 hot dog, $1.50. 3 hot dogs, $5. He knows it's more expensive to buy 3, but doesn't change his sign. Why? Each time a customer saw his sign, they would buy 1 hot dog, then another, and then a third one, totaling up to $4.50. Thus, everyone's happy. The customers think they're clever, and the vendor gets his sales up. During a fire, a bank was robbed. The security guard told the police that he wanted to save a bag of money, but he had to crouch to tie his boot just in front of the emergency exit. At that moment, the door opened and hit him on the head. When he came to, the money was missing. Why was the security guard arrested? Well, all emergency doors open outwards. You find yourself in a photo gallery. After looking at the wall, you realize that one of the pictures doesn't belong to the rest. You see a raccoon, a llama, a football, and a balloon. Can you tell which is the odd one out? It's the llama picture. The other 3 objects have 2 double letters in their names, but the llama only has 1 double. There's a barrel of water in the yard. You look inside and say that it's more than half full, but your friend argues that it's less than half full. How to figure out who's right without using any measuring tools or removing water from the barrel? Tilt the barrel so that the water touches the rim. If you can see the bottom, the barrel's less than half full. If the bottom is still covered with water, it's more. Sam and his brother John were always fighting. Their mother couldn't take it anymore and came up with a clever plan to stop them. She told the boys to stand on the same piece of paper in such a way that they didn't touch each other, and it worked. The boys couldn't fight anymore. How did she do it? The woman slipped the paper under a closed door and made Sam stand on one side and John on the other. There is a bridge that is 1 mile long. It can hold only 5,000 pounds at one time. That's exactly the weight of the truck that's crossing it. The truck reaches the middle of the bridge and stops. Suddenly, a bird lands on the truck. Is the bridge going to collapse? The bridge isn't going to break down because the truck has already used some gas to get to the middle and therefore weighs less than 5,000 pounds. A young woman is sitting near the window. At first, she's deep in thought. Then, she suddenly decides to throw something out of the window. A couple minutes later, she drops on the floor unconscious. She's perfectly healthy and isn't prone to sudden faints. There was no one outside to have hit her either. So, what happened? She was knocked out by the very same thing she'd thrown out the window. It was a boomerang that came back and hit her on the head. Well, that was a dumb thing to do. Two men are in a room facing each other. One of the men is a psychic and can see into the future. He predicts that in 10 minutes, the other man will be hit on the back of his head. Of course, shocked and paranoid, the other man can't stop staring at the clock on the wall. And exactly 10 minutes later, he's lying face down on the floor. How could it happen? After 10 minutes, the man turned around to see if there was anyone behind him. At exactly that moment, the psychic hit him on the back of his skull. Well, I'm starting to think he wasn't a psychic after all.
Oh no! Someone broke into Monsieur Dupont's house, broke into his home office and stole some important things from his safe. Here are 2 photos of the safe before and after the theft. Will you be able to find 5 things that the criminal stole? They stole a wad of cash, a ticket to Lyon, and an expensive watch, a necklace, and a gold statuette. Unfortunately for the thief, Gabriel Dupont is actually a retired detective. What a great way to remember the old days! Gabriel decides to examine the house and look for possible traces of the criminal. Do you see anything suspicious in this picture? There are boot marks on the floor. The size is quite large. These are most likely the footprints of a man's shoes. Now let's go to the hallway where the footprints lead. Do you see anything suspicious here? There are shards of glass on the floor. It's strange because none of the windows seem to be broken. Could the thief have shattered something that belonged to him? The criminal entered the house through the window. Gabriel decides to explore the garden. Are there any traces there? It seems the criminal dropped his hat in a hurry. Now it's time to listen to witnesses. The day before, there were 3 people in the house. Gabriel's wife, Chloe, their maid, Mary, and the gardener, Adam. Each of them claims to have seen the criminal, but their stories differ dramatically. Chloe says, "I was walking along the corridor and noticed a shadow in the garden. It was a man with long brown hair. He ran away as soon as he saw me, so I thought he was just passing by." Mary says, "I was going to the 2nd floor and noticed the shadow. It was a tall man wearing glasses, and I think he was bald. He noticed me and slipped through the window. It looked as if he dropped something when he was running away. I immediately called you, Monsieur Dupont." And Adam says, "I was planting flowers in the garden. At one point, I looked up and saw a shadow in the hallway. It was a woman. She was tall, with curly hair. I started running towards the house, but when I arrived, she was already gone." Who is right? Mary. It looks like Adam just saw Chloe, and Chloe spotted Adam, but they didn't recognize each other. As for Mary, she thought that the man had been bald because he'd had a hat on. She also said that she'd been wearing glasses. That's where the shards came from. Gabriel asks Mary for more details. She draws a portrait of the thief. A middle-aged man wearing a hat and glasses. The criminal stole tickets to Lyon, so Gabriel decides to go there. He takes a bus to the airport. On his way, he makes a decision to brush up on his detective skills. Which of the passengers doesn't have a ticket? The baby in that woman's arms. Gabriel boards the plane and decides to practice again. Which of the passengers is married? The girl with a ring on her finger. Gabriel arrives in Lyon. He comes to the hotel to ask about the criminal and is now waiting for his turn to speak to the receptionist. While he's waiting, can you guess which of these people is not a tourist? This man. He's the only one who doesn't have a suitcase. Neither does he have any souvenirs with him. Finally, it's Gabriel's turn. He comes up to the receptionist. "Hello," he says. "I'm a detective investigating crime. Could you please provide me with the footage from your security camera for the past few days?" "Of course, detective. But could you please help me to solve another crime first? I think my dog has stolen some of my papers." Can you help the receptionist find the dog? Here it is. The dog is hiding under the stairs in the hall. Gabriel has received the footage from the cameras for the last 4 days. Can you find the suspects in these photos? Here he is. On the first day, he arrived wearing glasses, but without a hat. But look, a couple of days later, he got a new hat and an expensive suit. "That's the man I need," Gabriel says, showing the man in the photos. "Oh, I know him," the receptionist replies. "He's usually absent at night and returns only in the morning, at around 10 o'clock. Gabriel decides to check in at that hotel and wait for the suspect to return. After taking his things to his room, he sits down to solve a few logic puzzles before going to bed. The first one is easy. Here it is. 2 fathers and 2 sons found 3 oranges and shared them. Everyone got a whole orange. How is it possible? There were 3 people, a grandpa, a dad, and a son. The second puzzle is harder, but Gabriel still solves it easily. Can you? A woman needs to bake 6 pies. How can she do that in 15 minutes if maximum 4 pies can be placed in a pan, and 1 pie needs to be baked for 5 minutes on each side? Step 1. We put 4 pies in a pan and bake them for 5 minutes. Step 2. We turn over 2 pies, remove the other 2, put 2 new pies and bake them for another 5 minutes. Step 3. We remove the 2 finished pies, turn the other 2 over, put the 2 half-cooked pies from the first batch, and bake them for 5 minutes. The task is done. The last riddle has a catch. It goes like this. A deaf and mute man entered a store to buy a pencil sharpener. He placed his index finger in his left ear and made a rotational movement near his right ear with the other hand. The seller immediately understood what the man wanted. Sometime later, a blind man entered the same store. How did he explain to the seller that he wanted to buy scissors? He just said it aloud. He was blind, not mute. In the morning, the detective wakes up and goes downstairs to wait for the suspect, and he indeed comes in at 10:15 a.m. It's a middle-aged man wearing glasses. He looks at his watch and says, "Oh no, I have to hurry. I'm already 15 minutes late." Gabriel immediately jumps up. "It's you! You're the thief who robbed me!" How did Gabriel understand that? The watch the suspect was looking at was the one that once belonged to Gabriel. "No, wait, the man says, backing away, and then, suddenly, he dashes away. "Oh no!" Gabriel starts running after him, but the man has already managed to hide somewhere. He must have chosen one of these 3 ways to escape. There is a police car blocking this road. The second road leads to an alley, so dark that you can see nothing. The third road is blocked by a big crowd of people. Think, which way did the culprit choose? He probably picked the third road. Of course, he wouldn't run towards the police. It'd also be very dangerous for him to run in the dark. What if he tripped over, fell down, and got caught? So, he chose the crowd to blend in with. Gabriel notices the criminal in the crowd. He runs after him, but the man disappears around the corner. Gabriel follows him. On the left, he sees the central square of the city. There's a cafe in the center. On the right, he spots a road leading to the park. Which way did the criminal most likely choose? The one leading to the central square, of course. There are not so many people in the park. The culprit would look suspicious running along a deserted path. And if he took a seat in the cafe, the detective would immediately spot him. Finally, Gabriel reaches the square. While he was running, he managed to request police assistance. Now he needs to find everyone who looks like the culprit before the man escapes. Can you find 5 possible suspects? Here they are. These are all men in hats and glasses. The police grab the suspects and take them to the police station for questioning. They all look very similar. Unfortunately, the criminal has already managed to hide the watch. So, Gabriel has to find another way to identify him. Who is the thief? This man. He has the same wart on his nose as the thief did. Gabriel recognizes the criminal. His real name is Charles Winston. "I didn't do anything," he claims. "I started running away because I was scared, and you have no proof that I'm a criminal." Really? Gabriel suggests that the police should examine the criminal's room in the lobby. They find a safe there. The password is a 4-letter word. There's also a hint next to the safe. 7, 15, 12, 4. Can you figure out the code? The password is gold. The numbers correspond to the ordinal numbers of these letters in the alphabet. In the safe, there's Gabriel's gold statuette. Unfortunately, this is all they find. The criminal managed to sell the rest. But what matters the most for Gabriel is that justice has prevailed. Justin was an archaeologist who explored ancient pyramids. One day, something went wrong, and he ended up locked in a tiny room deep underground. The guy got into the room through a narrow passage. It was blocked by a rock slide several minutes after he'd entered. There was only one other door in the room, but it was locked. To open it, the guy had to solve a riddle. Stand. Try to. After mulling it over for some time, Justin guessed what it meant. Can you? The answer is try to understand. Detective Taylor came to investigate a tricky case. Someone had pushed a famous basketball player down the stairs, and he ended up in a hospital right before an important game. The detective had 3 suspects, all of them the player's teammates. Connor said he had been cleaning and checking basketballs. Nathan explained that he'd had his lunch, several cheeseburgers and french fries. After that, he went to train. And Julian told the detective he had been getting a massage. His back hurt. Detective Taylor didn't need much more time to figure out who the culprit was. It was Nathan. No one eats such a big lunch before training. Mark came to visit his friend Thomas in his office. While walking along the corridor, he heard his friend shouting. He ran inside and spotted Thomas standing near a girl who was on the floor. "It's my secretary, Linda. I returned from my lunch break and saw her unconscious. Also, my safe was open and very important documents were missing." Another man, Thomas's deputy, entered the room. "Whoa, what happened here? I've been away for 10 minutes at the most. I just went to buy coffee at the nearest cafe." Suddenly, the girl opened her eyes. "I had such a scare. I was working with documents when someone grabbed me from behind. And then, darkness. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't shown up, boss." Mark told Thomas to call the police immediately. Why? If the secretary was unconscious, how did she know it was Thomas who found her? Jack and John are twin brothers. They're robbers, and the police all over the country have been trying to catch them for several years. That's why everyone's happy when one of the brothers gets into a trap after breaking into a wealthy businessman's villa. But police officers have a problem. They can't figure out whether they've caught Jack or John. The brothers are just so similar. The man also refuses to tell them his name. The only thing the detectives know is that Jack always lies and John always tells the truth. How can they find out who the man is by asking him just one question? The question the police officers need to ask is, do you have a brother? If it's Jack, he'll lie and say no. And if it's John, he'll give a positive answer. Matthew wears either only black or only white socks. One evening, he's in a hurry, getting ready for a romantic dinner with his girlfriend. Suddenly, the power goes out. The guy has 10 white and 10 black socks in his drawer, but all of them are mixed. If it's completely dark in the room and Matthew can't see anything, how many socks must he pull out of the drawer to get 2 matching ones? Just 3. In a set of 3 socks, he's bound to have 2 socks of the same color. Milan airport customs officers noticed that one man traveled abroad at least several times a week. They started to suspect he was a smuggler, but couldn't understand what he'd been smuggling. He always had a suitcase or a bag with him, but there was never anything forbidden or expensive inside. Several months later, when a new customs officer joined the team, the mystery was solved. What was it that the man smuggled? He smuggled designer suitcases and bags. You've gotten trapped in a bizarre room. Shiny, made of metal and with no windows, and it has 2 doors. One of them leads to freedom. Some danger is looming behind the other. You don't know which door is safe. 2 robots guard these doors. They're ready to allow you to leave through one of the doors, but once you choose a door, you can't change your mind. On the bright side, you can ask one of the robots a single question. But one of them always tells the truth, and the second always lies. Again, you don't know which is which. What question should you ask? If I asked the other robot which door was safe, what would it answer? The honest robot is going to tell you the truth and point at the dangerous door, and the liar is gonna lie and also point at the dangerous door. All you need to do is leave through the other door.
You turn right and immediately bump into a huge guard. Your heart skips a beat and you get paralyzed with fear. To your surprise, the guard looks down at you and asks, "Want to pass?" Speechless, you just nod. Okay. You see, no one here wants to play riddles with me. If you solve one of my riddles, I'll let you go and won't tell anyone I've seen you. Deal? You nod again, and here comes your riddle. What is that invention that lets you see right through walls? That's a window, of course. The guard smiles and says, "Beware of the vampires." Then he moves aside, letting you go. Wow, that was close. And vampires? This gives you chills, but you have to keep moving and get out. And again, another door that requires a passcode. Can you crack it? There's a hint again. You should continue the sequence. OTTFFSSENT. Each of these letters is the first letter of the numbers. O for 1, T for 2, T for 3, then 4, 5, and so on. The last stands for 10, so the next four are ETTF, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Yep, that's correct. The door clicks open. Move! You get into a huge dark room. All the light comes from the candles the room is filled with. The problem is that there are 4 ways, and again, you don't know which one to take. Suddenly, each of the doors opens and 4 people walk into the room. There are 2 men, 1 woman, and 1 teenage girl. They all say they're prisoners too, and the other 3 are vampires. Who do you trust? You should trust the second man. He's the only one who casts a shadow from the light of the candles. The other 3 don't, so they must be vampires. So you rush to the man and you shut the door behind yourself. It'll probably slow them down for a while. As you're running, the man tells you he's been here for at least 3 days. The next obstacle is something he couldn't solve by himself, so he couldn't get out. There's just one try, and if you fail, the exit gets blocked for 24 hours. Finally, you come across another door with a robot guarding it. To let you go, the robot needs you to say the password. The tricky thing is that the password is different each time. The man said that as he was hiding in the room, he saw the vampires passing it twice. The first time, the robot said 12, and the vampire said 6. The other time, the robot said 6, and the vampire said 3. When the man approached the robot the last time, the robot said 8. The man replied 4, but the robot didn't let him in. The door got blocked, so it wasn't the right answer. You nod and approach the robot. The robot says 4. What is your answer? The answer is 4. The rule isn't dividing the number by 2, but saying the number of letters in the word. Your answer is accepted. The robot opens the door and lets you go. Again, another dark room. But as you step into it, you get surrounded by 8 hungry dogs. In the middle, there's a meat cake standing so high on the table that the dogs can't reach it. To calm them down and make them your friends before they make you their dinner, you have to feed them the cake. But here's a tricky thing. The knife is magical and can only make 3 cuts. After 3 cuts, it disappears. Your task is to divide the cake into 8 equal pieces with these 3 cuts. How can you manage that? With 1 cut, you cut the cake in half and get 2 pieces. Then you make another perpendicular cut and get 4 pieces. With your last move, you have to cut the cake in the middle horizontally, splitting each of the 4 pieces into 2 at once. Great job! 3 friends, Blair, Chloe, and Nell, were walking all day around town. They found a beautiful but dusty house where no one lived. They entered it and started to take pictures. In the evening, they were scrolling through the pictures and one of them made a scream. Take a look at the photos and say which one scared them and why. It's the first picture. There was no one in the house except for the girls, but on that picture, they're all 3 of them together, snapped from behind. Michelle was having a birthday party. She noticed her brother was eating in his room with some girl. However, she didn't know who it was. She got very curious, so after they left, she sneaked into his room to find some hints. There were 3 girls at her party: Jasmine, Sydney, and Nicole. Michelle immediately guessed who her brother was dating. Can you? Her brother was dating Jasmine. Look at the dishes and the cutlery. There's a lipstick stain on the fork. Jasmine is the only one wearing lipstick. Pamela is a lawyer and Samantha is a journalist. Can you guess which one of these women is a mother? Take a look at the background. On the wall behind Samantha, there's some colorful marker scribbles. She must be a mother. Gianna was getting ready for her date. Suddenly, the lights in her apartment went off. She was almost ready and only needed her gloves. It was dark and she couldn't find a fitted pair. She only had gloves of 2 colors, brown and black. She was already late, so she decided to leave, taking several gloves with her. How many gloves should she take with her to be sure there's a pair of the same color? She just needs 3. Even if the first 2 are of a different color, the third one will either be black or brown, matching the other one. A police officer was following a robber around the city. Suddenly, the robber entered the hospital and disappeared. When the police officer entered the building, there were 3 workers. One of them must be a robber who dressed up to pretend to be a doctor. Can you tell who? It's the man in the middle. Look at his badge. There's a picture of a woman on it. He must have worn the first pair of clothes he noticed. It was Christmas morning and the whole family was home. When Bailey returned in her room after watching her show on TV, she found that someone stole all the presents she had been wrapping. She questioned every person in the house. Her mom said that she had been making dinner. Her dad said he had been mowing the lawn. Her brother said he had been playing video games in his room. Who stole the presents? It was Bailey's dad. It's winter, and we could see that it's snowing outside. He just couldn't mow the lawn. In the Arts Museum, the lights went off for a couple of minutes. When they came back on, the most expensive painting was missing. The detective arrived and started the investigation. There were 3 suspects, and he questioned each of them. Jessica, a dance teacher, said that she had been so scared when the lights went off that she couldn't even move and for sure didn't touch anything. Derek, a journalist, said he'd been in the bathroom at the time. Collins, an engineer, said he had been in a different room of the museum, watching the dinosaur fossil. Who's lying? It's Collins. It's an art museum. There are no dinosaur exhibitions. Can you tell who's not a real werewolf? It's actually the guy who looks like a werewolf. Werewolves only turn into wolves during the time of the full moon and at night. It's daytime now, so the guy must be just wearing a costume. Esme was having a walk in the forest. After the dawn, she tried to find her way back home, but got lost. Finally, she came across a witch's house and asked her to take her home. The witch agreed to help her, but only if Esme solved her riddle. If not, she'd have to stay with the witch forever. The witch took an apple, tied a string to it, and held it. She asked Esme to cut the string in half so that the apple didn't fall down. However, Esme couldn't touch the apple or hold it. How could she do it? Esme should tie a knot in the middle of the string, make it into a loop, and then cut the apple. The worried wife. Jason got into a car accident and lost his memory. When he came around in his hospital room, he saw 3 young women near his bed. But the man couldn't remember who they were. Each of them claimed to be his wife. The doctor told him Jason had to stay in the hospital for at least 1 more week. "Sweetheart, what am I supposed to do if you never remember me?" The woman on the left was sobbing bitterly. "Honey, I'm so worried. Let's go home. I don't like it here. I'll take better care of you at home," the one in the middle exclaimed. The girl on the right was furious. "They're trying to steal you from me. Let's leave this place right away." Which lady is the man's wife? She's the one on the left. She's the only one who's worried. The other 2 want to take Jason away from the hospital, but he's injured and needs medical care. The inheritance. Jim's uncle Archibald was a wealthy man who loved playing pranks on his relatives. That's why, when he passed away, no one could find his will. But one day, a few years later, Jim was looking through some old papers. Suddenly, his breath caught in his throat. The document he was holding was his uncle's will. It read, "I hid all my money and other valuables at 3 p.m. sharp under my favorite cherry tree, right where its shadow ends. The one who digs it out will be my heir." Jim was beyond happy. He was going to be wealthy. He drove to his uncle's posh villa and found the cherry tree. He waited till 3 p.m. and started to dig. But try as he might, his efforts didn't pay off. Confused and upset, he had to return home. Why didn't he find anything? It's been several years since Jim's uncle hid his valuables. The tree has grown taller, and its shadow has become longer too. Who's poor? These 2 girls are putting on their makeup and getting ready to go out and have fun. They're using pretty much the same things: lipsticks, cosmetics, clothes. Their phones look similar too. But one of these girls is poor. Who is it? Take a closer look at the girl on the left. Her phone gives her away. It's an obvious knockoff. But then again, she saved some money. She won't be poor for long. Who is it? Mark and Liza had been dating for 2 years. One day, the guy came to his girlfriend's house. He was going to propose to her. But when he made it there, he found Liza with another man. Mark was furious. The other guy got scared and rushed out of the house. Liza was shouting it was her brother, but Mark knew better. Unfortunately, he hadn't seen the guy's face clearly. When he ran outside, he saw 3 men. Which one is Liza's lover? It's the guy on the left. It's freezing outside, and the other 2 guys have red cheeks and noses. But the third guy's face is pale because he just left a warm house. A weird choice. Every day, Mark rides his bike to the railway station to get to the college. There are 2 stops near his home. One is a mile away from his house, and the other 2 miles away in the opposite direction. In the morning, he always gets on the train at the first stop, and in the afternoon, he gets off at the second. Why? Mark's home and the stations are on the hill, and this method allows the guy to ride his bike down without any effort. A money problem. A notorious criminal caught rich businessman Brian and locked him in a room. "I won't let you go until you double the money I leave for you." And the criminal put $5,000 on the table. By the time he returned, Brian had already doubled the money. He hadn't left the room or communicated with anyone. Then, How did he do it? He put the money in front of the mirror. A realization. 3 friends fell asleep under a tree in the countryside. While they were resting, a boy painted mustaches on their faces. Once the men woke up, they started to laugh. But then, all of a sudden, they stopped. Why? At first, they saw the mustaches on their friends' faces and found it funny. But then, they realized their friends were laughing too. It meant they had mustaches on their faces as well. A member of an expedition to the South Pole found himself in a frozen cave. He didn't remember what had happened, but he knew he had to get out. The man saw 3 doors and a note saying what was behind each of them. Behind the first door, there was a hungry polar bear. Behind the second door, there was a room filled with poisonous gas. And behind the third, there was a room with sharp icicles falling from the ceiling every second. Which door should the man choose to survive? He should pick the first door. He's at the South Pole. There are no polar bears there. After classes, Nora stayed at the university. She needed to finish her project. She was sitting in the hallway. Soon, she got hungry. The girl went to grab some food and left all her stuff behind. When Nora returned, she checked her things and called the police. She told them what had happened and reported her wallet stolen. There were 3 other students nearby. All of them were questioned. Kennedy said she had been texting her friends. Ethan said, "I did sit close to Nora for a while, but I didn't see or touch her wallet." Gabriella said she had been in the classroom and just walked out a couple minutes before. The detective listened to them and left without arresting anyone. Why? The detective remembered that Nora had gone to get some food. It means the wallet was with her and couldn't be stolen. The girl lied. 3 women, Sarah, Milla, and Eleanor, went shopping. 2 of them are pregnant, and 1 is a professional watermelon thief. Yeah, I know, but just humor me. Can you tell which one stole the watermelon? It's Milla. She's wearing heels. It's not the kind of shoes pregnant women would wear. Aurora was spending her summer in the countryside. She often took long walks in the forest alone. One day, she saw a huge mansion. It was obvious no one lived there, so she entered the house. It was dusty inside, but still beautiful. Aurora took some pictures and left the place. When the girl came back home, she looked through her photos. She wanted to pick the best ones to post on her social media, but then she saw one of the photos and screamed. Take a careful look at this photo. Can you see what scared her so much? Aurora noticed she, herself, was in the photo. But it's impossible. She was alone in the house. Stella and Adeline were sisters. Their grandmother once presented Adeline a bracelet. But both girls loved this piece of jewelry very much. So sometimes Stella snuck into her sister's room and borrowed the bracelet. One day, Adeline came home and noticed the bracelet was gone. She knocked on her sister's door. Stella opened the door, realized it was her sister, and shut it again. In a couple of minutes, Adeline managed to break into the room. She started searching for the bracelet. Stella told her that this time she hadn't taken Adeline's jewelry. Adeline didn't find anything and had to leave. But on her way out, she remembered something and managed to get her bracelet back. Where was it? When Stella opened the door, she had her hair down. But later, she already had her hair tied up. In those few minutes, she made a bun and hid the bracelet in her hair. On a rainy summer night, Mrs. Miller came home after work. Her neighbor, Mrs. Smith, visited her. The women wanted to have some tea together. Mrs. Smith said her daughter was at a party. She met one of Mrs. Miller's triplet sons there. Mrs. Miller asked which one it was, but her friend didn't know. Her daughter could never tell the guys apart. The problem was all three of them were grounded and weren't allowed to go out until the next week. Mrs. Miller wanted to find out who had broken the rules. She called the boys and asked how they'd spent the day. Ian, the artist, said, "In the evening, I was outside drawing." Ryan, the musician, said, "I spent all day inside writing a new song." Luke, who likes sports, said, "I did a workout and spent the rest of the day reading." Mrs. Miller understood which of her sons was lying and grounded him for another month. Who's the liar, and how did she know? Ian lied. He said he had been drawing outside, but it was raining. Jessie is a mom of 3 who works as a detective. She comes home late one night and goes right into the kitchen to get dinner ready. Waiting for her in there, a huge mess. Looks like someone already had their dinner, a chocolate pasta sandwich. She doesn't let her kids eat that kind of stuff. So she goes upstairs and rounds up all her kids. Katie, Serena, and Hannah are all busy doing their homework. They all deny eating chocolate pasta, but she still knows who it was. Who's lying, and how did Jessie know? Back in the kitchen, the knife's on the right-hand side of the chocolate pasta. That means the person who made the sandwich is left-handed. She has only one left-handed kid, and that's Hannah. You get lost in the forest, and you end up wandering around the whole day. Finally, at sunset, you come across a small and spooky house. Looks like a witch lives there. You have no other choice, so you go in and ask her to show you the way out of this crazy forest. The witch agrees, but on one condition: you have to play a game. If you answer correctly, she lets you go. If you make a mistake, you have to stay with her forever. Here's the question. You have something that's yours. You barely use it, but others use it a lot. What is it? It's your name. You're abroad, enjoying the sun and a much-needed vacation. One day at the beach, you meet a beautiful woman and spend the whole day with her. In the evening, you ask her if you can meet again tomorrow. She smiles and says yes, if you can guess where she comes from. But she really likes you, so she gives you a hint. The place I'm from is 2 of Armenia, 1 of Germany, 2 of England, 1 of Turkey, 2 of India, and 1 of Australia. Can you guess where she's from? Two of Armenia means you have to take the first 2 letters of the name Armenia, A-R. The rest are the same. 1 of Germany is G, 2 of England is E-N, 1 of Turkey is T, I-N from India, and A from Australia. Together, they make Argentina. That was a lot of work. She better be worth it. You're wandering in a different forest and you come across a picnic. They're all witches. You try to hide before they notice you, but uh-oh. What do they want? Actually, they're pretty chill. They just need a little help. There are 8 of them, and one of them celebrating her 999th birthday. They've got a birthday cake, but there's a problem. And no, it's not that there's too many candles and too little cake. Their magic knife can only make 3 cuts, and they can't figure out how to cut the cake into 8 pieces. Can you figure it out? cut the cake in half. Then make another cut so there are 4 equal pieces. Now cut the cake sideways through the middle so it has 2 layers. Now everybody gets a piece. Helena finally got herself a new guitar. She wanted to play it right away, but she had school. She locked it in her room and left. When she got home that evening, the guitar was gone. Her family was kind of fun. They were always pulling pranks on each other. She asked everyone about her guitar. Here's what they said. Her mom said she hadn't even seen the guitar. Her dad said he saw it when he walked past her room, but then he didn't go in because he had a lot of work to do. Her brother said he was at home, but spent the whole day downstairs. Helena solved the mystery instantly. Can you figure it out? Her dad's lying. He said he saw the guitar while walking past her room, but that would be impossible. She locked the door on her way out. Mrs. Miller left the house and put a $100 bill in the dining room for her son. But the son said he never saw the money. There were 3 other people in the house that morning: Stephen, the gardener, Bill, the cook, and Molly, the housemaid. Steve said he saw the money, but he's an honest man. He'd never take it. Bill said he spent the morning in the kitchen and didn't see the money at all. Molly said she had to open the kitchen window but didn't want the bill to fly away. So she put it in this book between pages 35 and 36. Can you tell who's lying? Molly is. She couldn't have put the money between pages 35 and 36. They're 2 sides of the same page. Kevin's a single father of 4. He was working late one evening and got a call from a neighbor. The neighbor just saw one of his daughters walking around with her friends in a totally different neighborhood. It was dark, so the neighbor couldn't tell which daughter it was. When Kevin came back home, he asked his daughters which one of them was out after dark. Lily said she was reading all evening. Madison said she was playing Uno. Riley said she was in the backyard in the pool. Ava said she was talking to a friend in her room. Kevin immediately knew who was lying. Do you? It was Madison. She couldn't have been playing Uno by herself. She's hiding something.